I never thought love could turn into a threat. All I wanted was to make my grandchildren laugh, slip them candy when their mother wasn't looking, and tell bedtime stories that carried them into dreams filled with dragons and princesses. 7-year-old Jake would climb onto my lap, his small fingers tracing the lines on my weathered hands. 5-year-old Lily would giggle when I made funny voices for different characters. They clung to me with pure trust, their tiny hands gripping mine like anchors in a storm I didn't see coming. But I saw it in Vanessa's eyes. Every smile they gave me made her jaw tighten like a steel trap. Every laugh that escaped their lips when I was around seemed to steal something precious from her. At first, I dismissed it as motherly protectiveness. New mothers can be territorial, I told myself. She just needs time to adjust to sharing their affection. But the storm clouds were already gathering, and I was too blind to see the lightning building behind her forced smiles. I didn't know then just how far she would take it. Her resentment showed in small cracks that grew wider each week. She'd interrupt my bedtime stories with a sharp, "Time's up, kids need their sleep," cutting me off mid-sentence when I was doing different voices for the Three Little Pigs. When the children ran to me first at family gatherings, she'd roll her eyes so hard I thought they might fall out of her head. Under her breath, she'd mutter things that felt like tiny needles. "You'll confuse them with all those silly stories," she'd say. Or, "They need structure, not constant spoiling." The words were always delivered with a tight smile, as if she was being reasonable instead of cruel. I thought giving her more space would ease the tension. So I stepped back, visited less, called before coming over. Instead of gratitude, she grew colder. Every conversation became strained. Every interaction felt like walking on broken glass. My presence in her home seemed to register as theft in her mind. The children noticed too. They'd glance at their mother nervously when they hugged me, as if they were breaking some unspoken rule. And then came the night she revealed her true weapon. One bitter December evening, my phone buzzed with the family group chat notification. I was sitting in my recliner, a cup of tea growing cold on the side table, expecting the usual birthday reminders or funny videos of the kids playing in the snow. My heart felt light as I opened the message thread, ready to smile at whatever precious moment they'd captured. Instead, my world crumbled in an instant. On the screen was a video that made my blood run cold. It was my face, twisted with an expression I'd never worn, my mouth moving to speak words that felt like acid in my ears. The voice was mine, but the message was poison. Harsh curses aimed at Jake and Lily, the very children I treasured more than my own life. "You little brats never listen," the fake version of me snarled. "I'm sick of dealing with you." The words cut through me like broken glass, each syllable more impossible than the last. Below the video, Vanessa had typed a single, devastating comment. "This is the influence I've been warning you about." In that moment, I felt the earth crumble beneath me. For asterisk asterisk. The words in that clip were venomous. Things I had never said, never even thought in my darkest moments. They were the opposite of everything I felt for those children. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned, hitting replay over and over, unable to believe what I was seeing. My own face, my own voice, speaking hatred I'd never felt. My son called 30 minutes later, his voice uncertain and strained. "Dad, we need to talk about this video." He didn't outright accuse me. He was too kind for that. But the distance in his voice was clear as mountain air. The warmth we'd always shared had been replaced by cold doubt. "Son, I never said those things," I whispered into the phone, my voice cracking. "I know this is hard to discuss," he said carefully, like he was talking to someone having a mental breakdown. "Maybe we should get you some help." The worst part came the next weekend when I visited. My grandchildren, who used to run to me with arms wide open, stayed close to their mother's legs. Their bright eyes, once filled with joy when they saw me, were now clouded with confusion and hurt that cut deeper than any knife could. Alone that night, I sat in my kitchen with all the lights off, the darkness matching the hole in my chest. My hands clenched into fists until my knuckles burned white, the pain somehow grounding me in reality. Technology had been twisted into a weapon against me, and I felt utterly helpless against its precision. But shouting "it's fake" would only make me sound like a bitter old man losing his grip on reality. Who would believe a grandfather over a clear video? The lie was so perfect, so convincing, that even I started to doubt my own memories for terrible moments in the dark. I knew about those deepfake videos I'd seen on the news. People could make anyone appear to say anything these days. The technology was getting so good that experts had trouble telling real from fake. But knowing what had happened to me wasn't enough. I needed proof that would stand up to scrutiny. I needed evidence so clear that no one could dismiss it, or I would lose my family forever. The question that kept me awake until dawn was simple and terrifying. But where would I find it? So I became a different kind of man. I put on the mask of the defeated grandfather, letting my shoulders slump a little more, speaking softer, moving slower. But underneath that broken exterior, I became a silent hunter. My eyes stayed sharp, my ears tuned to every conversation, every detail that might give away her secret. I watched Vanessa during family dinners, noting how she smirked when people mentioned the video, how she'd glance at her phone during quiet moments. I listened to her phone calls, catching fragments about editing software and how realistic it looked. She thought she was being careful, but pride makes people sloppy. Weeks crawled by like wounded animals. I played my part perfectly, never asking questions that might seem suspicious, never pushing back against the new rules about supervised visits with my grandchildren. I was patient like a spider waiting in its web. Then fate placed something in my hands that she'd forgotten about completely. During one of those supervised visits, I was helping watch the kids while my son ran errands. That's when I noticed it, the baby monitor with its little glowing light. Always recording, always watching, always listening. Could this small device hold the key to my salvation? The baby monitor sat on the kitchen counter, its tiny red light blinking steadily like a heartbeat. I'd seen it there dozens of times during my visits, just part of the background noise of a house with young children. But now it called to me like a beacon of hope in my darkest hour. One afternoon while babysitting, Vanessa had gone to her book club meeting. My son was at work. The children were napping upstairs. The house was quiet except for the gentle hum of the refrigerator and my racing heartbeat. I approached the monitor like it might explode if I moved too fast. My fingers trembled as I picked up the receiver. These modern devices weren't like the simple walkie-talkies from when my son was little. This one had a screen, memory storage, the ability to record and playback. I'd watched my son use it before, scrolling through footage to check on the kids at night. The menu was confusing at first, but I managed to find the storage section. Days and days of recordings, time-stamped and organized. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst as I scrolled backward through the dates. Could it have captured her? Could this little machine hold the proof that my words had never been what she claimed? I braced myself as I pressed play. I scrolled through hours of footage, my eyes burning from staring at the small screen. Most of it was boring household noise, the kids playing, the dishwasher running, normal family sounds. But I kept searching, driven by a desperate hope that felt like drowning man reaching for driftwood. And then I found it. There she was on the screen, hunched over her laptop at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared Sunday dinners just months before. Her face was lit by the blue glow of the computer screen, her fingers moving across the keyboard with focused precision. I could see video editing software open, multiple windows with clips and audio files. My hands shook so badly, I almost dropped the monitor as I watched her work. She was splicing together clips of me talking to the children, cutting out words and phrases, layering them with new audio that twisted my voice into something ugly and hateful. The baby monitor had captured it all, her face, her actions, even her voice. Let's see them love Grandpa after this, she whispered to herself with a satisfied smirk, her voice clear through the monitor's speakers. I replayed the footage until tears blurred my vision. The timestamp showed it was recorded 2 days before that horrible video appeared in the family chat. I finally had the smoking gun, undeniable proof of her deception. The question now was, how would I use it? Evidence alone wasn't enough. I learned that lesson watching courtroom shows with my late wife. Timing mattered more than truth sometimes. If I confronted Vanessa in private, she'd deny everything and probably destroy her computer. If I called my son immediately, she'd find a way to twist the story, maybe claim the baby monitor footage was somehow fake too. But if I waited too long, my grandchildren's faith in me might never fully return. Children's hearts are delicate things. The longer they believed I'd said those terrible words, the deeper the wound would grow. Every day that passed with them afraid of me was another day stolen from our relationship. I sat in my living room that night, holding the baby monitor like it contained the most precious treasure in the world. Revenge, I realized, had to be precise. It needed to be timed like striking a drum on the perfect beat of a song. Too early, and it sounds wrong. Too late, and the moment is lost forever. I thought about David facing Goliath, how he waited for exactly the right moment to release that stone. One shot, one chance. It had to count. And then, like an answer to a prayer I hadn't even said yet, fate handed me that perfect beat. The invitation arrived in my mailbox on a cold Thursday morning, colorful and bright against the gray sky. Jake's 8th birthday party, a celebration of our precious boy, written in Vanessa's perfect handwriting. The whole family would be there, plus neighbors, friends from school, other parents from the soccer team. I stared at that invitation for a long time, seeing not just a party but the perfect stage for justice. She would be in her element that day, playing the devoted mother and gracious hostess. Her pride would be on full display, shining like armor she thought made her untouchable. All those people who'd heard whispers about the terrible grandfather would be watching. The same neighbors who now crossed the street when they saw me. The other parents who'd stopped making eye contact at school pickup. Everyone who'd judged me based on her lie would gather in one place. And in that same room, the truth would finally stand naked under the light. My hands were steady as I picked up my phone to call and confirm my attendance. Of course I'll be there, I told my son. I wouldn't miss Jake's birthday for anything. What I didn't tell him was that this birthday would be remembered for much more than cake and presents. I began planning my strike. The electronics store felt like enemy territory as I walked through the automatic doors. I wasn't comfortable with all the modern gadgets and glowing screens, but I knew exactly what I needed. The teenager working the tablet section looked at me with barely concealed impatience, probably wondering what an old man wanted with expensive technology. I need something my grandson would love, I told him, pointing at the sleekest model on display. Money's no object. This is special. The tablet was beautiful. Thin as a magazine, screen bright as a mirror, the kind of device a child would dream about unwrapping. But it wasn't just a gift. It was a vessel of justice, a Trojan horse carrying the truth into enemy territory. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with the tablet and my laptop, working slowly through the process of transferring the baby monitor footage. Technology didn't come naturally to me, but desperation made me focused. I created a simple folder on the tablet's home screen, labeled Surprise for Grandpa's Friends. Inside that folder, I placed the raw footage of Vanessa creating her deepfake masterpiece. The video was crystal clear. Her face, her voice, her hands crafting the lie that had nearly destroyed my relationship with my grandchildren. As I wrapped the tablet in bright birthday paper, my hands trembled, but not from fear. This was anticipation, the feeling of a man who'd been patient long enough. The trap was set, and the countdown began. Jake's birthday dawned sunny and warm, perfect weather for an outdoor party. I arrived exactly on time, carrying the wrapped tablet under my arm like it contained the most precious gift in the world, which, in a way, it did. The backyard was transformed into a wonderland of balloons, streamers, and a bounce house that dominated the lawn like a colorful castle. Vanessa glowed as she moved through the crowd, accepting compliments on her party planning skills, her homemade decorations, her beautiful family. She wore a sundress that probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget, her smile bright and perfect for the cameras that kept flashing. "Oh, you came," she said when she spotted me, her voice carrying just enough surprise to plant seeds of doubt in nearby listeners. "How nice." I stayed calm, moving like a ghost through the background of conversations. Other parents nodded politely but kept their distance, their discomfort clear in their body language. The whispered story about my outburst had spread through the community like wildfire. Every forced smile from an adult who used to greet me warmly, every protective step a parent took to keep their child away from me. Each small rejection reminded me why this moment was necessary. Soon, she would face her own reflection. The gift-opening ceremony began with Jake surrounded by colorful packages, his eyes bright with 8-year-old excitement. Parents formed a loose circle, phones ready to capture the precious moments. Vanessa positioned herself perfectly for the photos, her arm around Jake's shoulders like she was posing for a magazine cover. I waited until most of the smaller gifts had been opened, toys and games that brought squeals of delight but were quickly set aside. Then I stepped forward, my heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. Every eye in the yard seemed to follow my movement as I approached the birthday boy. "This one's special, Jake," I said, placing the wrapped tablet in his eager hands. The weight of it made his eyes widen with curiosity. I kissed his forehead, breathing in that sweet scent of childhood innocence. "From Grandpa with all his love." The wrapping paper crinkled as he tore into it, his movements quick and efficient like any child on their birthday. Around us, cameras clicked, voices murmured appreciation for the expensive gift. Vanessa's smile tightened slightly. She hadn't expected me to bring something so extravagant. "Wow, Grandpa!" Jake exclaimed as the tablet emerged from its colorful prison. "This is awesome. Turn it on," I encouraged softly, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. No one suspected the storm contained in that sleek device. Until he pressed the power button. Jake's small fingers moved across the screen with the natural skill of his generation. The tablet lit up with colorful icons and promised adventures, but his attention was caught by the folder I'd placed prominently on the home screen. "Surprise for Grandpa's friends," glowed like a beacon among the other apps. "What's this one, Grandpa?" he asked, his voice carrying the excitement of discovery. "Something very special," I said, my throat tight with emotion. "Why don't you open it and see?" The adults around us leaned in with mild curiosity, expecting maybe a slideshow of family photos or a video message. Parents continued chatting among themselves, wine glasses catching the afternoon sunlight. Vanessa was accepting compliments on the beautiful party decorations from a cluster of her book club friends. Jake tapped the folder with his finger, and the screen filled with a video player. The baby monitor footage began automatically, the timestamp visible in the corner showing the date 2 days before the deepfake had appeared in our family chat. At first, the image was just an empty kitchen. Then Vanessa walked into frame, carrying her laptop with purposeful determination. The conversations around us gradually hushed as people realized they were watching something unexpected. Every eye slowly turned toward the screen, then toward her. On the tablet screen, Vanessa settled at the kitchen table, her laptop open, multiple windows of video editing software clearly visible. The baby monitor had captured everything with startling clarity. Her focused expression, her fingers dancing across the keyboard, the progression of her work as she spliced and layered audio to create her masterpiece of deception. The party guests stood frozen, wine glasses halfway to lips, conversations dying mid-sentence. Jake held the tablet proudly, not understanding what he was showing everyone, but pleased to be the center of attention. The video's audio was crystal clear through the tablet speakers. "Perfect," Vanessa's recorded voice said as she adjusted something on the screen. "Now let's add the angry tone." Her fingers moved quickly, manipulating audio files with practiced skill. My son appeared at my shoulder, his face draining of color as he recognized his wife's voice, his wife's actions. Other parents exchanged confused glances, trying to process what they were witnessing. The timeline was undeniable. This footage was recorded before the deepfake video had appeared in our family chat. Vanessa looked up from her conversation about cake flavors, her eyes finding the tablet screen. The transformation in her expression was instantaneous, casual pride melting into pure panic. The silence in the backyard was heavier than storm clouds. And then she snapped. "Turn it off," Vanessa shrieked, lunging forward with wild desperation. "That's private. You had no right." But the tablet was in Jake's hands, and he instinctively pulled it closer to his chest, protecting his special birthday gift. The video continued playing, her recorded voice echoing across the suddenly silent party. "Let's see them love Grandpa after this," her image said with that satisfied smirk, the words carrying clearly to every corner of the yard. She clawed at the device, trying to grab it from her own son. "Give me that. It's not what it looks like." But her panic only confirmed her guilt to the 25 people now staring at her in stunned disbelief. Jake started crying, confused and frightened by his mother's sudden aggression. Lily ran to my legs, seeking comfort in the chaos. My son stepped between his wife and son, his face a mask of shock and growing understanding. "Vanessa, what is this?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The evidence rolled forward, unstoppable as an avalanche. Her careful mask had shattered completely, revealing the calculating woman underneath. The video showed her adding the final touches, muttering, "This will teach him to think he can replace me." Her voice echoed from the tablet speakers, bitter, vindictive, nothing like the sweet mother and wife everyone thought they knew. The recorded Vanessa was explaining to herself how she'd isolated my voice patterns from innocent conversations with the children, then layered them with harsh words and angry tones I'd never used. "Perfect," she said in the video, admiring her handiwork. "No one will ever believe the old man over this." The real Vanessa, standing in her backyard surrounded by neighbors and friends, watched her secret work displayed like evidence in a courtroom. She alternated between trying to grab the tablet and attempting to explain away what everyone was seeing with their own eyes. "It's not what you think," she pleaded, her voice cracking. I was trying to protect my children." But the timestamp in the corner of the video told the real story. This footage was recorded 2 full days before the deepfake had appeared in our family chat. She'd planned this attack, crafted it with care, then sat back to watch my family turn against me. My son's hands shook as he finally took the tablet from Jake, but not to turn it off, only to see more clearly what his wife had done to his father. And what he saw destroyed something in him that might never be repaired. I didn't gloat. I didn't raise my voice or point fingers or make accusations. I simply stood there in the backyard chaos, steady and silent, letting the truth breathe on its own. The video had said everything that needed saying. My innocence was proven not by my words, but by her actions, captured in perfect digital clarity. My son stared at the screen for a long moment, watching his wife manipulate technology to destroy his father. When he finally looked up at me, his eyes were filled with tears and something that might have been shame. "Dad," he whispered, his voice breaking like a dam giving way. "God, Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Around us, the party guests stood in uncomfortable clusters, unsure whether to leave or stay. Some parents gathered their children quietly, recognizing that this family moment had become something much larger and more painful. Others remained frozen, watching the drama unfold like they were witnessing a car accident. The tide had turned completely. 25 witnesses to her deception. 25 people who would never see her the same way again. But her pride was only beginning to crumble. The children were the first to respond with pure hearts. Jake dropped the tablet and ran to me, his arms wrapping around my waist like he was trying to squeeze away months of confusion. Lily followed, her small hands gripping my shirt as if she'd been waiting for permission to love her grandfather again. "I knew you didn't say those bad words, Grandpa," Jake whispered against my chest. "You never talk mean to us." My eyes stung with tears, not from pain this time, but from the relief of being seen clearly by the people who mattered most. Their trust had been bruised but not broken, bent but not shattered. Children forgive easier than adults because they love without conditions. "I missed you so much," Lily said, her voice muffled by my shirt. "I missed you too, sweetheart." I managed, my throat thick with emotion. "Grandpa would never say mean things about you. Never." The backyard felt alive again, like color had returned to a black and white world. Other children at the party watched with curiosity, sensing that something important was happening, but not understanding the adult complexities involved. Meanwhile, Vanessa stood isolated near the bounce house, her perfect party dress wrinkled, her carefully styled hair falling into her face. She was unraveling in real time. Unable to bear the weight of 25 pairs of judging eyes, Vanessa fled toward the house. Her high heels clicked frantically on the patio stones as she rushed past the gift table, past the elaborate cake she'd spent hours decorating, past all the evidence of the perfect party she'd planned to showcase her perfect family. But nothing was perfect anymore. Her carefully constructed image lay in pieces around her feet. The sliding door slammed behind her with a sound like breaking glass. Through the kitchen window, we could see her pacing back and forth, her hands pulling at her hair, her mouth moving in what looked like frantic phone conversations, or maybe just talking to herself. Guests whispered in low voices, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others checking their phones as if they needed to research deepfake technology to fully understand what they'd witnessed. A few parents gathered their children and left quietly, not wanting their kids to witness more adult drama. My son followed his wife briefly, disappearing into the house for several long minutes. When he returned, His face was pale and drawn, his eyes hollow like he'd seen something that changed him forever. His decision would determine not just our relationship, but the future of his entire family. The party guests who remained exchanged meaningful glances across the backyard. Mrs. Thompson from next door shook her head slowly. "I can't believe she would do such a thing," she murmured to her husband. "To her own family. Unbelievable," agreed Mr. Rodriguez from across the street. "That poor man." He looked at me with something that might have been respect. "How did you stay so calm through all of this?" Other neighbors nodded, their expressions shifting from confusion to understanding to something approaching admiration. In a single afternoon, the story they believed about the unstable grandfather had been completely rewritten. The whispered gossip that had painted me as dangerous and unpredictable now looked like the calculated lies they'd always been. No courtroom needed. No lawyer required. No argument or explanation necessary. Her own hands had delivered the verdict, recorded in perfect digital clarity for everyone to see. The evidence was undeniable, the timeline clear, her guilt absolute. She had built her downfall with her own pride and cruelty. And now she knew that everyone else knew it too. Later, after most of the guests had left with awkward goodbyes and promises to talk soon, Vanessa emerged from the house. Her face was streaked with mascara, her perfect party makeup smeared beyond repair. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of public exposure. She tried to speak to the few remaining neighbors, attempted to salvage something from the wreckage of her reputation. "There's more to the story," she said desperately to anyone who would listen. "You don't understand the pressure I was under." But no one looked at her the same way. The power she'd held over the household, the social standing she'd cultivated so carefully, the image of perfection she'd maintained, all of it was gone. Every eye saw through her now, saw the calculating woman who would destroy a grandfather's relationship with his grandchildren to satisfy her own jealousy. Her words fell on ears that had heard enough. The truth had a way of changing how people listened. She tried once more to approach me, perhaps to threaten or plead or bargain. But my son stepped between us, his jaw set with new determination. Sometimes silence can be deadlier than screams. That evening, after the decorations were put away and the children were in bed, my son sat beside me on his front porch. The neighborhood was quiet except for the distant sound of someone mowing their lawn, normal suburban sounds that seemed precious after the afternoon's chaos. His shoulders carried a weight that hadn't been there that morning. "I should have trusted you," he said, staring at his hands. "I let her poison me against you. My own father." I placed a weathered hand on his shoulder, feeling the tension in his muscles, the guilt that would probably take years to fully heal. "Son, she's very convincing when she wants to be." That video looked real, even to me for a moment. "But I know you," he said, his voice thick with regret. "I've known you my whole life. I should have questioned it more. I should have defended you." Forgiveness wasn't easy. Months of isolation and pain don't disappear with one conversation. But blood has a way of calling to blood, and truth has a power that lies can never match. Watching him struggle with his guilt was almost harder than dealing with my own pain had been. I could see the battle in his eyes, the war between his loyalty to me and his commitment to his marriage. I didn't boast about my victory. I didn't seek revenge beyond that single moment of revelation. My silence, my patience, my careful timing had spoken louder than any angry words ever could have. She had built her own destruction with lies and jealousy, and I had simply given it a stage where truth could shine. The baby monitor footage would spread through the community like wildfire, not through gossip this time, but as evidence of something much more serious. Parents would talk about the dangers of technology being used as a weapon. Others would discuss the importance of not believing everything they saw online. But mostly, they would remember that sometimes the quiet person in the corner is the one who sees everything most clearly. I hadn't raised my voice, hadn't made threats, hadn't even directly accused her of wrongdoing. The evidence had spoken for itself, delivered by innocent hands at a child's birthday party. There was poetry in that timing, justice in that irony. My reputation was restored not through argument, but through proof. My relationship with my grandchildren was healed not through words, but through truth. Yet one final realization remained, more important than revenge. As I held my grandchildren close that night, their laughter ringing freely for the first time in months, I understood something profound about patience and justice. Jake fell asleep against my shoulder while I read him a story about a knight who defeated a dragon not with a sword, but with wisdom. Lily curled up on my other side, her small hand clutching mine like an anchor. Sometimes the quietest person in the room strikes the loudest blow. Vanessa had tried to erase me with sophisticated lies, turning technology into a weapon of destruction. But truth has a way of surviving, of finding cracks in even the most carefully constructed deceptions. My silence hadn't been weakness, it had been strategy. My patience hadn't been passivity, it had been preparation. And when the perfect moment arrived, justice delivered itself through the innocent hands of a child opening a birthday present. The deepfake had been her masterpiece of deception, but the raw footage of her creating it became my masterpiece of revelation. She had taught me that in our modern world, lies could look like truth. But she'd forgotten that truth, when it finally emerges, shines brighter than any lie. And that is the story of how patience defeated betrayal, how silence conquered lies, and how love, real love, always finds a way to survive. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left.